I'll take God's cue as I see it, as I wish to take it. And I'll just go into what AI is an example of one of these experiences, like seeing the hot air balloon. If you've never seen one before, for instance, there's tremendous opportunity in AI. It gives you a tool, a facility that collects together in an amazing, astonishing efficiency much of what you might want and will contribute to something that you wish to know or understand or have an overview of, a summary of, and so forth. It can be therefore used as a great blessing. It will have its limitations, of course. In some sense, you can only get out of what you put into, which is why it occurs to me your longing for life and fullness of life requires an input that you don't seem to have. What is that input? Concept of God that is both all-powerful and all-loving, launches you in exactly that direction. Abundant life, life eternal. From, in particular, of course, the Jesus story point of view. That God's your heavenly dad. Look, it's like hot air balloons, though. It could be the death of you. It could be like, I launched into this a few recordings back, the same as wearing shoes that are slippery. Very useful, very convenient, but deadly. So you have to be careful, you have to be cautious. If you're a secular person, you are cautious. You're thinking, well, it's fairyland. I may become deceived and fritter away my life on a fantasy, and whereas I could have achieved much by being much more worldly and not religious, say, or not thinking of God in my life at all. And that's true. And you have this caution built into you because of your experience, which may be a blessing to have such, but may be your prison too. It's keeping you in a secular lack of opportunity. And we don't know. Life is uncertain. And we may only make significant changes, massive ones, when we're faced with overwhelming difficulty and, if you like, are desperate for a solution. And we try things we've never tried before, like the guy who prays on the battlefield. It's a great example that comes to my mind in Merlin Carruthers' book, Prison to Praise. And he's a chaplain in the army, or something, the American forces of some sort. And this chap's downed in his helicopter in Vietnam. Not Merlin Carruthers, but a bloke who he's talking to after the event that's being described. And the Viet Cong are closing in on him. And he prays. He's not prayed before in his life, as far as I remember the account. And he's desperate, he can't do anything. It's not good to fall into the hands of that understood enemy, and that you would be, well, potentially tortured to death. Don't want to dwell on that, do we? But you do in the situation, of course. It's imminent and you're in terror. And he prays to God. And, well, the account is that another helicopter comes and does rescue him just in the nick of time, at great risk to themselves in the military craft that rescues him. And he's so grateful to God, he comes to Merlin and to tell him the story of what's happened to him. And of course it's utterly transforms his life. Utterly. Into trusting God, of course. You see, you can have terrible difficulties that push you into an option you would never have taken in your normal humdrum run of living. Tragedies and difficulties can be like this. Don't get me wrong, they can also result in suicide and disaster and so forth, from a worldly perspective. Let me pause. I don't know where God's leading me. I just trust. I don't know when I get up to speak or when I, in this case, start to record, whether there'll be anything in fact. I just think you should give God the opportunity. If you're not willing, why would he give? Well, because he loves me anyway, and he may force me to listen, of course, but that's not the happiest way to go, is it? I mean, wouldn't we rather just think on God and see what becomes of it? I mean, is it so difficult to entertain the notion of the super creator of all who loves you? Isn't that a very entertaining notion, in fact? What's so repellent about it? What is it that keeps us from it? We're a sad case, aren't we? When we can't appreciate Mum and Dad's hopes for a lovely family. Perhaps it's as simple as that. You won't know until you taste and see. Mum's giving you something. She says, try it, love. It's lovely to eat. No, I don't want to. Oh, well, Mum likes it. We're children. Do you see? We're kids, spiritually speaking. We're absolute infants. And there's this vast development that we're on the threshold of, if we survive long enough, by the grace of God, our Heavenly Dad, to enjoy the fullness of such. Bless you, and you are blessed. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. You'll need to rehear this recording to grasp the connection to AI, which is where we started. You may have forgotten that, although it may have attracted you to listening to this particular recording. Have another shot at it. I do this a lot, I read something. Well, I don't even do that. I sketch across something and flip through and think, oh, perhaps that's worth listening to or reading further. I go further. I carry on from somewhere in the middle, probably. Then I go back. When I get to the end, I go back to the beginning and hear the whole lot. And the bit that I've read twice or heard twice means something much more vivid to me. And with blessing, I may read it again or listen to it again, whatever it is. Hear the same argument put a different way. And somehow I get far more out of it. We're a sort of inefficient AI machine in some ways. And because we're so prejudiced, we skip over all sorts of information. Oh, no, been there, done that, don't want that, no, rejected that, don't listen to that, don't include that, don't bother to read that bit. Whereas AI doesn't, it skates on. Of course, AI can be frightfully manipulated and is more biased against what would bless you than you would be. I mean, could be, couldn't it? Depends who's running the show, doesn't it? Who's influencing the algorithm, the search procedure that the program has. Yes. So you can see, got great potential of both good and bad, hasn't it? So you'll tread carefully, won't you? Perhaps don't give it to your children too young. Don't know, what do you think? They could find they're netting up all sorts of things that could lead them in a way that you certainly wouldn't appreciate. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, interestingly, I've distracted you by adding this note, because where I had finished, I don't know, something like 7.5 minutes through. All right, it wasn't where I started, but it's of infinite value compared to what I started on. And by going back to the beginning, I sort of eclipsed that in your mind with a different issue as regards the value of AI itself. Instead of how we are biasing and wrecking the validity of AI by our prejudice, which is typically formed because of the narrow beginnings that we've had. If I'd been brought up secular, then I wouldn't dream of entertaining the religious. If I've been brought up religious, I won't entertain being non-religious. Well, unless I'm feeling very rebellious, of course. You get the same between religions and denominations. My one's right and everyone else's is wrong. How do I know? Oh, because I've had nothing to do with them, that's why. Well, that's a very strange line of reasoning. Well, nobody would admit to that, but well, perhaps they would, I don't know. Yeah, I've been brought up safely by good parents, yes. So I have got the title to this, I Am AI. Tricky. Thank you, Dad.